Sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest stories. Jaden was not like other boys in his school. He didn't talk much. He didn't laugh loud. He walked alone, always looking down, holding his old brown backpack close to his chest, like it was made of gold. No one knew what was inside the bag. But Jaden never let it go, not even for a second. Every day after school, he walked the same path, through the back alley, across the small park, and past an empty street where most kids never went. But Jaden always walked there, because that's where Shadow waited. Shadow was a big black dog with kind eyes and a strong body. No one knew where he came from, but he lived near the school, behind the broken fence. The dog never barked, never chased anyone. He just sat there, waiting. And when Jaden came, Shadow stood up, wagged his tail, and walked beside him like a quiet best friend. Jaden would smile. That was the only time anyone ever saw him smile. One cold afternoon, as dark clouds covered the sky, Jaden left school like always. His bag was tight across his shoulder. His steps were slow. His face looked tired. Shadow stood up, ready to join him. But something felt different today. Shadow didn't move. He just stared down the alley. Jaden turned to look, but saw nothing. What he didn't know was that someone was watching him. From behind a wall, a man in a gray hoodie stood hidden. His name was Ray, and he had been watching the boy for 2 days. He didn't care about the boy. He only cared about the bag. He thought, maybe there's money. Maybe something I can sell. That bag looks heavy. Must be worth something. He saw that the boy always walked alone. No one ever came to pick him up. Easy target. Jaden crossed the park. Shadow stayed behind, watching every move. As Jaden reached the quiet street near the corner shop, Ray made his move. He ran. Fast. From behind. Jaden didn't hear anything until it was too late. "Hey!" Ray shouted, and in one rough pull, he grabbed the bag from Jaden's shoulder. Jaden fell to the ground, his eyes wide, his heart racing. "No. Please. Give it back," he cried, holding out his hand. But Ray was already running down the street, the bag in his hands. He didn't care about the boy's tears. He just wanted what was inside. Suddenly, there was a loud growl, and from the corner of the alley, Shadow appeared. Not barking at all. Just running. Fast. Focused. Ray looked back, and what he saw made his feet freeze. The black dog, eyes locked on him, was chasing with silent power. "Get back," Ray shouted, dropping the bag and pulling out a small stick to scare the dog. But Shadow didn't stop. He didn't attack. He didn't bite. He did something no one expected. He stood over the bag, not touching it, just standing there, still, like a soldier guarding a treasure. His eyes stared straight into Ray's soul. No growling, no sound, just presence. It was enough to make Ray stop moving. What kind of dog is this?" Ray whispered, stepping back. Jaden got up from the ground, limping a little, tears in his eyes. He saw Shadow standing between the robber and the bag. He saw his backpack, safe. He ran to Shadow, fell to his knees, and hugged him. "Thank you," he whispered, holding the dog tight. Shadow didn't move. He just stayed still, protecting the bag and the boy. A woman across the street had seen everything. She called the police. Soon, sirens echoed through the quiet road. Ray tried to run, but his shoelaces were loose. He tripped hard and fell on the pavement. By the time he looked up, 2 officers were already there. He was handcuffed in seconds. As the officers picked up the bag to check what the fight was all about, they expected to find money, or gadgets, or something expensive. But when they opened it, everyone went silent. Inside the old bag was something that would change how they looked at Jaden forever. The street was quiet again. The wind blew gently, carrying dust and dry leaves. Jaden stood close to Shadow, still hugging him, still crying. His small hands held the dog's neck tightly, like he was holding on to life itself. The police looked down at the bag. One officer slowly unzipped it. Inside, they didn't find money. They didn't find any gadgets. They didn't even find food or clothes. Instead, they found a small worn photo of a man in a soldier's uniform, a medal, old and broken in the middle, a journal full of handwritten notes and drawings, and a stack of hospital papers with a woman's name on top, Amara Jackson. The officer looked at Jaden. "Son, is this your father?" he asked, pointing at the photo. Jaden nodded slowly. Tears filled his eyes again. "He died last year," Jaden whispered. "He was a soldier." Everyone stood silent. Even the thief, Ray, lowered his head. He didn't know. He had no idea. Jaden looked down at the bag and said softly, "This is all I have left of him." The officer felt a tightness in his chest. He didn't know what to say. Shadow sat down next to the bag, still guarding it like it was the most important thing in the world. The female officer bent down to Jaden's level. She spoke gently. "What about your mom, sweetie? Where is she?" Jaden looked away, trying to hold back more tears. "She's sick. She's in the shelter right now. I live in a small room with her, but most days I walk alone." The officer's face changed. Her eyes softened. "And this dog, where did you get him?" Jaden looked at Shadow and gave the first small smile of the day. "I didn't get him. He got me." The officer tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Jaden said quietly, "About 6 months ago, I was crying behind the school. Nobody saw me. I didn't want anyone to see. I missed my dad. I felt scared. I didn't know what to do. Then, he came." Jaden pointed at Shadow. "He sat next to me. He didn't bark. He didn't lick me. He just sat there, like he understood." Since that day, Shadow followed him everywhere. He waited behind the school. He walked him home. He never asked for food, never begged, just stayed close, like a shadow. "I called him Shadow," Jaden said, "because he's always with me, even when I don't see him." The police looked at the dog again. He didn't look like an ordinary street dog. His body was strong. His eyes were focused. His movements, too trained, too perfect. Then something strange happened. The female officer stepped forward and gently lifted the tag under the dog's collar. Her eyes widened. "No way," she whispered. "It can't be." She looked closer. There was a name, a number, a police ID. She gasped and turned to her partner. "This is HER. This is K9 Unit Shadow, the missing police dog from 2 years ago." Everyone looked shocked. "You mean this dog was in the police?" her partner asked. "Yes. She was trained, worked in the K9 unit. Her partner died during a mission. She went missing after that. We thought she was lost forever." Jaden looked confused. "She was a police dog." The officer nodded. "She was more than that. She was a hero." Jaden looked at Shadow, eyes wide. Shadow just blinked back at him calmly. "Maybe that's why she found me," Jaden said softly. "We both lost someone." Ray, the thief, was still sitting on the pavement, now handcuffed. He had tears in his eyes too. He shook his head. "I thought it was just a kid with a bag," he whispered. "I didn't know it meant that much." He looked at Jaden. "I'm sorry, kid. I was wrong." Jaden didn't speak. He just picked up the bag and hugged it to his chest again. Shadow stood beside him, quiet, still, like a statue, but full of meaning. The female officer took a deep breath. "We need to make some calls," she said. "But one thing's clear. This dog didn't find this boy by mistake. She found him because she was meant to." The two officers stood next to the police car. Jaden sat on the back seat with his bag in his lap, holding it tightly like before. Shadow sat on the ground near him, alert and calm, not moving an inch. The woman officer looked at her partner and said, "His name is Jaden Jackson. His father served in the army. Died in service." She paused. "The mother, Amara Jackson. She's in a city shelter. She has no job. The boy walks alone to school every day." Her voice became softer. "He's just a kid, but this bag, it's everything to him." Inside the bag, the things told a story. The old photograph, a strong black man in a soldier's uniform, standing tall with pride. The journal, full of small drawings, a house, a stick figure family, a dog, and lines like, "I miss you, Dad. I'll be brave today. Shadow walked me home again." The hospital bills, unpaid, stacked, marked with red ink. The mother's illness wasn't just small, it was serious. And the medal, broken at the edge, had the father's name engraved faintly. Seat. Lionel Jackson, hero in the field. The male officer turned to look at Jaden. He didn't speak much. He just stared at the bag, sometimes at Shadow. The officer asked gently, "Did your father give you the medal?" Jaden nodded. Before he left, he said, "If I don't come back, keep this close. It'll protect you." Jaden touched the medal softly. "Now Shadow protects me too." The female officer sat beside him. She looked at Shadow again. The dog was calm, but alert. Her body moved like a trained soldier. "Shadow used to protect our officers," she said. "She lost her partner too. That's why she disappeared." Jaden looked at her with big eyes. "She never leaves me, not even in the rain." Suddenly, a man from the neighborhood walked up. "I've seen that dog," he said. "She follows that boy everywhere. Every day. Same time. Same path. It's like clockwork." Another lady added, "She even sits outside the school gate, like she's waiting for her child." Ray, the thief, was still handcuffed and sitting nearby. He looked down at his hands, ashamed. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. "I didn't know. I just thought it was a lonely kid with something valuable." He looked at the bag and said softly, "I've done many wrong things, but this one feels worse than all of them." The officer replied, "You didn't just try to steal a bag. You tried to take away memories, family, hope." Ray closed his eyes. He had no answer. One of the officers made a phone call to the shelter. They explained the situation. They asked if the mother, Amara, could come down to the station. The answer, "She's too weak today." But she asked if her son was safe. The officer looked at Jaden. "He is safe. Very safe." Jaden looked up. "Can I go see my mom now?" The officer nodded. "We'll take you." Shadow jumped into the police car without being told. She sat quietly next to Jaden. Jaden smiled. "She always knows where I'm going." The female officer looked at him and said, "You're lucky she found you." Jaden replied, "I think we both were lonely. That's why we understand each other." As the police car drove away, people on the street kept staring. Not at the police, not even at Jaden. They were looking at Shadow, a dog that once served the law, a dog that disappeared after her partner's death. And now, she was back, not wearing a badge, but guarding something greater, a boy's broken heart. The police car rolled through quiet streets. Jaden sat in the back seat, hugging his bag. Shadow sat beside him, her head resting gently on his leg. She didn't move. She didn't sleep. She just stayed close, like always. The officer in the front looked into the rearview mirror and whispered to her partner, "This dog, she's not just smart. She's watching, studying." The partner nodded. "She's trained, military level. You can see it in her eyes." They'd reached the city shelter, an old, dull building with gray walls and broken windows. Jaden stepped out with his bag and a Shadow at his side. The officer led him through the hallways until they reached a small room with a thin curtain. A woman lay on the bed, her skin pale, her breathing weak, but her eyes lit up when she saw him. "Jaden," she said, her voice soft like the wind. "Mom." Jaden rushed forward, hugging her tightly. "I'm okay. I'm okay." Shadow sat near the door, watching quietly. Jaden opened the bag and took out the journal. "I brought the book. I've been writing every day like you told me." He showed her the drawings, the notes, the medal. His mother held the medal and smiled weakly. "Your father would be so proud of you." Then she looked at Shadow. She blinked slowly, confused. "That dog." Jaden smiled. "That's Shadow. She walks me to school. She protects me. She chased the bad guy away." The female officer stepped in. "Ma'am, we discovered something important. That dog, she's not just a stray." The mother looked confused. "She's not." The officer nodded. "She's an ex-police K-9. Her name is Shadow in our records too. She was declared missing 2 years ago after her partner was killed in action." Jaden's mother looked at the dog again, this time with more emotion. "And she found my son," she whispered. "She found my boy." The officer continued. "We believe Shadow was trained to protect, but when her handler died, she ran. Some animals, they grieve just like us." Jaden looked at Shadow. "She lost someone too. That's why we understand each other." The male officer entered the room with news. "Chief called. He wants the dog brought in. Says she belongs to the department." Jaden froze. "No." Everyone turned. "No," Jaden said again, his voice breaking. "She's mine. She found me. She's not just a dog. She's my only friend." Tears rolled down his face. Shadow moved closer to him, resting her head on his foot, as if she knew what was coming. The officers didn't speak for a moment. Then the woman officer knelt down. "Jaden, we understand, but she's registered. They'll want her back." Jaden looked up with pain in his eyes. "She's not a tool. She's not a machine. She's family." The mother reached out and held his hand. "He's right," she said softly. "She's done more for him than anyone ever has." Suddenly, Shadow stood up and walked forward. She placed her paw gently on Jaden's leg, then turned toward the officers. She didn't bark. She didn't growl. She just stood tall, like she was saying something without words. The female officer stared. "She knows. She understands." Jaden hugged Shadow tightly. "You don't have to go," he whispered. "Not again." The officer picked up her radio. She paused, then turned it off. "She stays," she said quietly. The male officer blinked. "What? But?" "She stays," she repeated. "Let the chief hear it from me." Jaden's face lit up, tears still in his eyes. Shadow wagged her tail once, slow and proud. Later that night, Jaden sat beside his mom, holding her hand. Shadow lay at their feet, her eyes watching the door, always alert. "Maybe she didn't lose her partner," Jaden whispered. "Maybe she was just waiting for the right one." His mother smiled and closed her eyes. Maybe she found the one who needed her most. But what no one knew was that Shadow had one more secret left. Something no one expected. And it would all be revealed very soon. Days passed. Jaden and his mom were moved to a better shelter, thanks to the officers who helped them. She was still weak, but the new doctors were kind. She smiled more now. She spoke longer. Hope was slowly returning to her eyes. Jaden still walked to school every day. And just like before, Shadow walked beside him. People on the street now recognized her. Some even smiled. "Morning, Shadow," they'd say. Children would wave. But Shadow stayed serious, focused. She wasn't just walking. She was still on duty. One afternoon, after school, Jaden walked into the shelter room. His mom was sitting up on the bed, smiling. "Jaden," she said, Someone is here to meet you." Jaden stepped inside, confused. There, standing near the window, was a man in a dark blue suit. Tall, clean, strong. But something about him felt different. Kind eyes, soft smile. He bent down and patted Shadow on the head. "You've been busy, haven't you, girl?" he said to her. Shadow didn't bark. She wagged her tail, slowly, and stepped forward. Jaden looked at the man. "Who are you?" he asked. The man smiled gently. "My name is Captain Brooks. I'm from the Special K-9 unit." Jaden blinked. "You're here to take her back." The man shook his head. "No, I'm not here for that." He walked closer and sat on a chair across from Jaden. "I'm here because of you." Jaden looked confused. "What did I do?" Captain Brooks looked at Shadow. "She chose you. That means something." He opened a folder he carried. "I read everything the officers wrote. I saw the photos, the journal, the medal." He looked Jaden in the eye. "You don't just have your father's eyes, Jaden. You have his heart." Jaden's hands tightened on his bag. "He died saving people," the captain continued. "And now, his son is being protected by someone who knows what that sacrifice means." He leaned in. "We don't think that was an accident." Jaden said nothing. His heart was racing. Captain Brooks smiled again. "We want to offer you something. It's not just a gift. It's a chance." He pulled out a card. It read, "Future Heroes Program, Special Youth Enrollment, Training, Mentorship, Family." Jaden read the words slowly. Captain Brooks explained, "This program helps kids of fallen soldiers. It gives them protection, education, and purpose." He paused. "If you accept, Shadow becomes your permanent partner." Jaden gasped. "You mean she stays forever?" Captain Brooks nodded. "She's already made her choice. She's yours, officially. But now, we'll help you grow. We'll give you tools your father would have wanted you to have." Jaden turned to his mom. She had tears in her eyes. "You have to say yes," she whispered, smiling through her tears. "He would be so proud of you." Jaden turned to Shadow. She looked back at him, calm, loyal, ready. He hugged her tightly. "Then yes," he whispered, "yes." A few weeks later, Jaden stood in a new uniform. It wasn't military, but it was part of something bigger. He stood next to other kids, all children of lost heroes. They trained, they learned, and beside him, always at his side, was Shadow. People in town began to talk. They told the story of the brave boy and the dog who never left him, of the thief who froze because of a single bark, of a bag full of memories that reminded the world of honor, love, and strength. And one day, someone asked Jaden, "Why do you think the dog chose you?" Jaden smiled and said, "She didn't just choose me. She found me. Because I needed her. And maybe she needed me too." While Jaden's life was starting to change for the better, far away in a quiet prison cell, Ray sat alone. The same man who once snatched a kid's bag now sat in silence, staring at the wall. No shouting, no anger, just stillness. Each night he closed his eyes, but instead of peace he saw her. The dog, Shadow. He saw the way she stood between him and the boy. He saw her eyes, not full of hate, but warning, not barking to hurt, but to protect. And then he remembered the boy. The way he screamed, "Give it back. That's my dad's medal." Ray had done many bad things in his life. He stole, he lied, he hurt people. But this time, he didn't just steal a bag. He stole a piece of someone's soul. One morning, a prison guard handed him a small envelope. "There's something for you," the guard said. Ray looked at it. It was a drawing. A child's drawing. Crayons. Simple lines. It showed a boy, a woman in bed, and a dog standing between them. At the bottom, it read, "Thank you for giving the bag back." Ray stared at the paper for a long time. He didn't understand. Why would that boy send him something kind? A week later, Ray was called to the prison counselor's office. "You've been quiet lately," the counselor said. "I heard you've been helping in the kitchen, reading books, writing." Ray nodded slowly. "I've been thinking," he said softly. "I've done a lot of wrong things, but maybe I could fix one thing." He asked the counselor a question. It shocked everyone. "Can I donate part of my work money to that boy's mom? For her treatment?" It wasn't much, just coins, but it was real. And it was his way of saying, "I'm sorry." Months later, Ray stood before the parole board. They asked him, "Why should we believe you've changed?" He pulled out the drawing. "This," he said, holding it up, "this boy forgave me, even when I didn't deserve it." He paused. "I want to be someone that dog wouldn't bark at anymore." He was granted early release, under one condition. He would join a community service program, helping kids in shelters. Ray arrived at the center with shaking hands. He didn't know what to say, what to do. But then, from across the room, he saw a familiar face. Jaden. The boy looked at him. No fear, just quiet eyes. And beside him, of course, was Shadow. Ray walked over slowly. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said, "but I just want to say thank you for this." He showed him the drawing. Jaden smiled. "You kept it?" Ray nodded. Jaden looked at Shadow. "She remembers you." Ray chuckled nervously. "She's not barking," Jaden said softly. "Maybe she sees what I see now." That day, the three of them, the boy, the dog, and the former thief, sat on the floor of the shelter, helping other kids draw. Shadow lay nearby, eyes half closed, peaceful. She wasn't just protecting anymore. She was witnessing something rare. Redemption. Because sometimes the strongest guard dog isn't the one that bites. It's the one that shows us how to protect what truly matters. A full year had passed. The city streets were warmer now. Shops had lights. Trees had flowers. And people walked a little slower, smiling more. Jaden had grown taller. His voice was deeper now, but his heart was still the same. He walked down the street wearing his new program jacket. Clean, strong, blue with a patch that read, "Future heroes, stand, protect, inspire." At his side walked Shadow, still alert, still calm. But now she didn't just guard Jaden. She walked with pride, like she belonged again. One morning, Jaden and his mom sat at the kitchen table in their new apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. She poured him tea with a steady hand, something she couldn't do last year. "You remember your father's voice?" she asked softly. Jaden nodded. "Only a little." She pulled out an old box from the drawer. Inside it was a small audio tape. He recorded this the day before he left. Jaden played it. A deep, kind voice came through. "Jaden, if you're hearing this, it means you've grown strong. Always protect those who can't protect themselves, and never walk alone if you can walk with love. I'm proud of you, son." Tears filled his eyes. His mother placed a hand over his. "You've become everything he dreamed of." That afternoon, Jaden went to the shelter center to help volunteer. Ray was already there, sweeping the floor, laughing with the kids. The same man who once took from Jaden was now the one giving more than anyone. Ray turned and waved. Jaden waved back. They didn't talk about the past anymore, because both of them had found something stronger than pain: change. At the center gate, a new boy stood alone. Small, afraid, clutching an old backpack. Jaden walked over. "Hey, I'm Jaden," he said. The boy looked up. "Are you the guy with the dog?" Jaden smiled. Shadow stepped forward and gently sniffed the boy's hand. She's got your back now, too, Jaden said. That night, Jaden sat on the roof with Shadow beside him. He looked out at the city. Lights shining. Cars passing. Shadow rested her head on his knee. Jaden whispered, "Thank you." She didn't bark. She just stayed close. Because some bonds don't need words. Far from the sound of danger, beyond the noise of sirens, a quiet boy, a broken man, and a forgotten dog had found one another. And together, they built something the world had forgotten. Hope. It was early morning. The sky was still waking up. Soft light touched the quiet streets of the city. Jaden stepped out of his building, his backpack on, just like every other day. But today felt different. Not bad, not sad, just full. Shadow stood beside him, as always. Older now, slower, but still proud. Her fur had a few more white strands, but her eyes, those eyes were the same. Strong, wise, loyal. Jaden looked down at her. "You ready?" he whispered. Shadow gave a soft wag of her tail and stepped forward. They walked together, side by side, no leash between them. They didn't need one. The city had changed. People smiled when they passed. The bakery lady waved. The bus driver gave a thumbs up. Kids on bikes slowed down and shouted, "Hi, Shadow." She didn't bark. She just walked steady. Jaden reached the park, the same one where everything had once gone wrong. Now it was clean, safe, peaceful. He sat on the same bench where he once cried, holding his father's medal. Shadow lay beside him. Jaden looked at the spot where Ray once ran, the spot where the bag was taken, where fear lived. Now it was just grass, just sunlight, just memories. A small girl walked by with her mom. She pointed at Shadow. "Mommy, is that the hero dog from the TV?" Her mom smiled. "Yes, sweetheart, that's her." The girl ran over gently and patted Shadow's head. "Thank you for saving people," she whispered. Shadow didn't move, just closed her eyes and rested. Jaden looked at the sky. It was brighter now. He pulled out his father's medal from his backpack. He still carried it, not because he was sad, but because it reminded him of strength, of love, of the moment when everything changed. He placed the medal gently beside Shadow's paw. "Dad," he whispered, "she's been my guardian, just like you were." Shadow opened one eye and looked at him. He smiled. "I think you'd have liked each other." Later that night, Jaden wrote in his journal, "Some heroes wear uniforms, some hold guns, some fight wars. But the one who saved me had 4 legs, soft eyes, and never asked for anything in return. She didn't just protect me. She helped me become someone worth protecting." He closed the journal, turned off the lamp, lay down on his bed. Shadow curled up beside him, like always. Outside, the wind blew softly. The moon shone through the window. And in that quiet room, no noise, no fear, no pain, just a boy and his dog. And the kind of peace you only find at the end of a long, beautiful journey.